Have you ever walked into a room and without a word being spoken, felt something shift inside you? Like a strange weight wrapping itself around your chest. A sudden wave of sadness that wasn't yours. A flicker of anger that had no cause. A heaviness. Like you absorbed the atmosphere without even realizing it. That moment, when your inner peace gets hijacked by invisible forces, is not just your imagination. It's real. And what if I told you? There exists a forgotten ancient practice, a sacred symbol, so small and simple it almost seems silly, yet so powerful that sages, mystics, and healers across centuries swore by it to protect their very soul. I'm talking about a single thread, red, wool, tied to the left wrist. But before you roll your eyes and think just another spiritual gimmick, pause. Because this is not about superstition. This is about energy, boundaries, sovereignty, and choice. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this story with someone who might be silently drowning in emotions that aren't theirs. Now let's take a breath. Because this thread, this ritual, it's far more than a decorative knot. It's an act of remembrance, of reclaiming your energy and choosing to no longer be a sponge for the world's chaos. Let me ask you, what if your body isn't just flesh and bone, but an energetic ecosystem? A living, breathing temple with its own rules, doors, and currents? In ancient wisdom traditions, from the Kabbalistic temples of Jerusalem to secret esoteric teachings whispered through generations in India, Egypt, and Sumeria, one truth kept repeating: the left side of the body is the receiver, the right side is the sender. And your left wrist? It is not just a joint, it is a gate, a silent entry point where emotional residue, foreign intentions, even spiritual parasites can creep in unnoticed. And in a time where we carry phones in our hands more than presence in our hearts, that sacred gate is wide open. The red thread exists to change that. But here's the thing, nobody tells you. The thread means nothing without intention. It's not the wool that protects you. It's you, the part of you that decides to guard your peace. Think of it like this. You can lock your front door at night, but if you leave the windows wide open, the winds of the world will still rush in. Likewise, your spiritual house needs sealing, not out of fear, but out of love. Love for your space, your mind, your energy. The red thread becomes your silent declaration. I decide what enters me. I choose what stays. I no longer absorb what doesn't serve. But let's go deeper. Because this thread isn't just about keeping things out. It's about calling yourself back into presence, back into awareness, back into your own sacred center, where the noise of the world ends and clarity begins. The thread reminds you, you don't have to carry what isn't yours. You don't have to solve pain that doesn't belong to you. You don't have to bleed energy every time someone else throws their storm your way. We are taught to protect our homes, our passwords, even our social media accounts. But who teaches us to protect our soul's frequency? This tiny red thread, this humble ritual, is that ancient teaching reawakened. It's not flashy, it's not commercial, it doesn't shout. It simply sits on your wrist and listens. And in that silence, it whispers a message. You are not powerless. You never were. But the world moves fast. And when we forget our energetic boundaries, we leak, we absorb, we lose ourselves bit by bit. Until one day, you wake up carrying grief that isn't yours. And you wonder when you stop feeling like you. That's why the red thread matters. Because awareness is protection. And this thread, it's your anchor to that awareness. Imagine walking through an ancient city. Dust swirls in golden sunlight. Bells echo from distant temples. Markets buzz with voices, incense, and ritual chants. But among the chaos, you notice something oddly familiar. On the left wrists of priests, midwives, warriors, and wise ones, a simple red thread. No logos, no brand, just a single strand of red wool, pulsing with silent purpose. You begin to realize, this isn't fashion, it's sacred technology. Because in ancient civilizations, symbols weren't just decoration, they were vibrational tools, living codes that marked intention, activated protection, and honored unseen laws. And the color red, it wasn't chosen at random. Red was the color of fire, of blood, of life force itself. To the ancients, red didn't just mean danger, it meant sacred boundaries. It was used to seal tombs, to wrap amulets, to encircle sacred objects and protect them from unseen interference. In Mesopotamia, red cords were tied around sacred scrolls to keep their messages sealed from unworthy eyes. In ancient Egypt, red was the color of divine fire, the kind that purifies, not destroys. Among the Hebrews, a red thread known as the shani was used to ward off the evil eye, often tied during rituals with prayers whispered into each knot. And deep within Kabbalistic mysticism, the left side of the body, especially the left wrist, was known to channel energies from the outer world into the heart. That made it both a gift and a risk, because whatever passed through your left wrist went straight to your center. That's why for initiates, the red thread wasn't about decoration, it was a seal, a spiritual firewall, a signal to the universe. Here ends the outside. From this point forward, what enters me is sacred, chosen, aligned. And it didn't stop with one tradition. In lesser-known strands of Hinduism, red threads called kalava were tied during sacred ceremonies to invoke protection and blessings. Not out of superstition, but from deep understanding of subtle anatomy. You see, every major mystical system, from Hermeticism to Ayurveda to Taoist alchemy, acknowledges the energetic asymmetry of the body. The right side is active, solar, projective. The left side is receptive, lunar, absorbent. Your left hand receives energies. Your left wrist is a spiritual intake valve. It is where emotion meets intention. And that's why it becomes the most strategic place for a protective knot. But here's the twist. The red thread doesn't protect on its own. And that's what separates ancient wisdom from modern mimicry. Because you can buy 50 red threads online, tie them every morning, and still feel drained. Why? Because protection is not passive. Protection is a ritual, a decision, a spiritual contract. And every thread, to have power, must be activated, not by force, but by intention. You have to charge it like you would charge a crystal or cleanse a sacred space. When the ancients tied their thread, they did it in stillness. They breathed. They whispered sacred names. They envisioned light encircling their wrist, sealing their field like a guardian flame. Some would tie 3 knots, others 7. Each knot not just a twist of thread, but a vibrational command, an energetic lock that said, I choose clarity. I welcome only resonance. I refuse to carry what is not mine. And then, they let the thread do its quiet work. You see, the thread doesn't block your sensitivity, it sharpens it. It's not a wall, it's a filter. And in a world of chaos, distraction, and energetic pollution, filters are sacred. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine your body as a house. Would you leave all the doors open while you're sleeping? Would you let strangers walk in while you're not looking? Of course not. So why then do we leave our energetic doorways wide open, absorbing the sadness of strangers, the anger of others, the weight of every room we walk into? That's where the red thread becomes more than just protection. It becomes a mirror, a daily reminder that your energy isn't free real estate. It's a sanctuary, and you are the high priest guarding its temple gates. Every time your eyes catch a glimpse of that red knot on your wrist, it says, come back to yourself. Breathe. Clear what isn't yours. And with that single thread, you shift from being unconsciously open to consciously aligned. This is not magic. This is spiritual maturity. So, you hold a red thread in your hand. It's soft, it's simple, it's ordinary. But the moment you tie it with intention, everything changes. Because this act, if done with presence, becomes more than symbolic. It becomes alchemical. It turns a strand of wool into a living seal, and your body into a temple consecrated by choice. And that's where most people go wrong. They treat the red thread like a trend, like a bracelet, like an Instagram aesthetic. But the ancients never used it that way. They never tied it casually, mindlessly, or while multitasking. They knew the power of the moment, that if your mind is scattered, your energy is scattered. That if you're unconscious, so is the tool, because energy follows attention. So when you hold the thread, you must be fully here. Let's walk through it, step by step. First, pause. Not for show, not for ritual drama, just to settle your energy. Breathe deeply, not from the chest, but from the belly. Feel the breath anchor you into the moment. You are no longer rushing, you are arriving. Now light a candle, white for clarity, red for activation, or simply close your eyes and imagine light flooding your space. Visualize your left wrist glowing, not just skin and vein, but a portal, a soft spinning vortex where the world's energy tries to enter. Then slowly begin to tie the thread. If you're using 3 knots, as is traditional in many lineages, speak silently or aloud with each one. Not 1, I protect my space. Not 2, only what serves me may enter. Not 3, my energy is sacred, I honor it. Feel the thread tightening against your skin, not as a prison, but as a boundary, a declaration that you have remembered your power. And then just breathe, because now the ritual is alive. Let's be clear, this isn't about theatrics. You don't need incense, mantras, or elaborate altars for it to work. You just need clarity. The clearer your purpose, the stronger the thread's charge. Because here's a truth that ancient mystics knew, but modern seekers often forget. Symbols don't have power, people do. A thread is just thread, until your consciousness gives it force. So what happens now? Well, you'll start noticing subtle shifts. Maybe you feel a strange calm wash over you in spaces that once overwhelmed you. Maybe someone's bad mood used to cling to you like smoke, but now it bounces off, like rain on stone. Or maybe, just maybe, your own thoughts become clearer, more defined, less tangled in the noise of others. That's the power of a boundary, not to shut you down, but to sharpen you, to filter out the noise so you can finally hear your own soul again. And if you're wondering, but won't this make me cold, closed off, less compassionate? The answer is, absolutely not. In fact, just the opposite. Because when you stop absorbing what isn't yours, you free up energy to actually care, to listen without drowning, to feel without fusing, to help without emptying yourself. This is not about isolation, it's about sovereignty. You don't build walls, you build a gate with a guardian, a filter, not a fortress. And the red thread becomes the password, a signal to your subconscious. From now on, I live on purpose. I choose what enters my energy field. I'm done with chaos by default. But listen closely. The work doesn't end when the thread is tied. In fact, that's when the real practice begins. Because this thread, it doesn't just respond to your intention once, it mirrors it constantly. If you fall back into unconsciousness, the thread loses charge. If you wear it during moments of anger, revenge, or fear, it absorbs that energy. Yes, you heard right. The red thread is a conductor. It can transmit clarity or confusion, depending on how you wear it. So don't tie it while in a panic or while running away from your pain. Tie it when you're present, calm, anchored, because whatever energy you're holding in that moment, the thread will carry. That's why in some psycho-spiritual lineages, it's said, a red thread tied in fear becomes a trap. A red thread tied in peace becomes a sword. Now ask yourself, when you look at your own wrist, or think of this ritual, what are you charging into it? What intention lives in that knot? Because the thread itself is neutral. You are the power source. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever felt drained after a conversation, even though no one raised their voice? Do you sometimes wake up exhausted, not from physical work, but from carrying invisible weight that seems to cling to you like fog? Do crowds overwhelm you? Do other people's sadness feel like your own? If you said yes to even one of these, you may not just be sensitive. You may be an energetic empath, someone whose field is so open, so porous, that the world pours in without asking. And in that open field, you carry things that were never yours to hold. Unspoken grief, residual anger, confusion, shame, expectations that don't belong to you. You become like a spiritual sponge, soaking up every room you walk into, every person you brush against, and for a while, you may not even notice. Because most empaths grow up thinking this is normal, thinking they're just too emotional or too sensitive. But there's nothing wrong with feeling deeply. The problem comes when there's no boundary, when every unspoken emotion in the space finds a home inside your body. When someone says, "I'm fine," but your chest feels like it's holding back tears they can't cry, and you don't know why you're the one weeping. And slowly over time, you begin to question yourself. You feel moods shift with no reason. You carry anger that isn't yours. You get anxious without cause. You wonder, am I broken? Am I too much? But you're not broken. You're just leaking. And the red thread, when used with intention, becomes the first step toward reclaiming your energetic field. It doesn't make you less caring. It doesn't harden your heart. It simply says, I will no longer absorb without consent. I will no longer suffer just because someone else is silent. I choose to filter, not to shut down, but to stay awake. Because the truth is, you don't have to become cold to protect yourself. You just need clarity. The red thread gives you that. Every time you glance down at your wrist, every time you feel its texture against your skin, it anchors you back into your own frequency. It reminds you, this pain isn't mine. This sadness doesn't belong in my body. This anger is not my burden to solve. Without a thread or any boundary, you become a catch basin for collective trauma. You start holding things that were never meant for you, fixing problems that aren't yours, carrying guilt you didn't earn. That's not empathy. That's energetic confusion. True empathy feels, but it also knows what is not its own. And that discernment, that line, is where the red thread lives. Think of it like an emotional firewall. It doesn't stop the connection. It just filters the toxicity. It lets in what's pure and what's resonant, what uplifts, and blocks what drains, distorts, or distracts. But it only works if you respect the practice. Because as we said before, if you wear it like fashion, it does nothing. If you wear it with unresolved fear, it amplifies fear. If you tie it with intention, though, real, centered intention, it becomes a living spell. And spells don't mean hocus pocus. They mean focus. A spell is a word spoken with such clarity that it alters energy. So when you whisper, "This thread seals my energy," you're casting a line between chaos and calm. You're saying not everything gets in, not anymore. And for sensitive souls, for empaths, this is revolutionary. It's like learning how to breathe for the first time after drowning in other people's oceans for years. You don't lose your compassion. You reclaim your center. You become strong and soft, all at once. And let me say this clearly. There is no award for being emotionally exhausted all the time. There is no badge of honor for being the person who holds everyone else's pain while yours goes ignored. That's not virtue. That's a leak. And the thread gives you permission to stop leaking, to protect your joy as fiercely as you protect your loved ones, to remember that your energy isn't endless. It needs rest, shelter, respect. The red thread won't solve everything, but it will start something. It will start the practice of choosing what comes into your sacred space and what doesn't. That choice, it changes everything. The first time you tie the red thread, something shifts. It's subtle at first. Maybe your breath deepens. Maybe the room feels lighter. Maybe you feel a kind of stillness, the kind that says, I'm finally home in myself. But just like any living ritual, the red thread isn't meant to last forever. That might surprise you. After all, don't we want protection that's permanent? But here's the truth the ancient mystics understood. Everything sacred moves in cycles. Your thread, your energy, your body, none of them are static. They breathe, they evolve, they shed old skin. And when your red thread begins to fray, unravel, or break, it's not bad luck. It's not failure. It's a message. The ritual has completed its purpose. Your energy has shifted. Your soul is ready for a new seal, a new chapter, a new layer of clarity. But so many people miss this. They treat the thread like a permanent fix. Wear it until it's limp, gray, lifeless, long after its frequency has faded. That's like carrying a dead battery and expecting it to power your phone. It doesn't work that way. So how do you listen to the thread? Here are a few sacred signs it's time to release, recharge, or renew your ritual. Moon 1, the thread irritates you. Suddenly the wool feels itchy, or it starts to feel wrong against your skin. This is your body, your intuition, telling you something's out of alignment. Don't ignore it. 2, it falls off unexpectedly. You wake up and it's gone. No tear, no pull, it simply disappeared. That's not a random event. That's energetic release. Something was sealed. The work is done. Time to honor it and move forward. 3, your energy feels heavy. Despite it, you still wear the thread, but feel drained again. This usually means the thread's charge is depleted. It's no longer acting as a filter, it's become neutral. That's your cue to cleanse and recharge it, or start fresh. 4th, it breaks. During emotional upheaval, if your thread snaps during conflict, grief, or deep energetic shifts, take notice. That's not a flaw. That's a ritual completion. The thread took the brunt of the emotional wave. It served its purpose and released you. Now, what do you do when it's time to remove it? This part matters more than most people realize. You don't just throw it in the trash like it was meaningless. You release it with gratitude. Because this thread didn't just sit on your wrist, it stood guard. It carried your intention. It filtered the invisible. So here's how to let it go. With reverence, 1, hold the thread in your hands. 2, breathe deeply. Acknowledge what it held for you. 3, thank it, even out loud. Say, you served me well. I release you with love. 4, then burn it in a safe space or bury it in the earth. Let the fire or soil take the energy back, neutral and whole. This is called closing the energetic loop, because what you close with intention makes room for what's next. And if you feel called to start again with a new thread, do so from a fresh state of being. Cleanse your space, light a candle, ask yourself again, what do I need to protect? What am I choosing to filter now? Because every time you tie a thread, you're not just repeating an action, you're updating your spiritual code. This is not superstition. This is soul technology. It's about living your boundaries, not just thinking about them. You see, we've become obsessed with symbols, but detached from what they mean. We wear crystals, but forget to charge them. We chant mantras, but forget the silence behind the sound. We tie red threads, but forget the soul inside the knot. And so these things stop working. Not because they lost their magic, but because we lost our attention. But now, you know better. You know that every time you tie that thread, you're making a vow. I will protect my peace. I will return to my center. I will not confuse compassion with chaos. So when you wear it with awareness. Don't wear it through rage. Don't wear it through fear. Don't tie it as an escape from pain. Tie it as a commitment to truth. The red thread is not a substitute for healing. It's a companion to it. It walks beside your inner work. It supports your sovereignty, but it will never do the work for you. And that's exactly what makes it so powerful. Because the moment you take full responsibility for your energy, the moment you stop blaming others, or the moon, or fate, that's the moment your energy begins to transform. That's the real spell. That's the moment the thread becomes more than thread. It becomes a mirror, a reminder, a seal for a life lived on purpose. By now you understand. The red thread isn't magic, it's memory, a whisper from your ancestors, a tool passed down by mystics who walked through storms and learned how to stay clear inside the chaos. It's a symbol, yes, but more than that, it's a choice to say, I will no longer move through life unconsciously. I will no longer absorb pain that isn't mine. I will walk through this world fully present, fully sovereign, and fully me. Let that settle for a moment, because in a world that profits from your distraction, from your exhaustion, from your spiritual forgetfulness, the simple act of tying a red thread with intention becomes revolutionary. And not the loud kind of revolution, not the fists-up, world-burning kind. No, this is the quiet revolution of remembrance, a soul saying, I remember who I am. I am sacred. My energy is sacred. My space is mine to protect. And in that remembering, your posture changes. You stop leaking. You stop bending. You stop apologizing for your boundaries. You become like a flame, not burning everything you touch, but illuminating what's true. People will feel it. They won't always know why they feel calmer around you, why your presence feels like peace with a backbone, but it will be there. That's what happens when you no longer carry what isn't yours. You begin to radiate your own frequency, unmuddied, unfiltered, uncompromised. This is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming aligned. And from that alignment, everything else changes. Your relationships begin to shift. Your intuition sharpens. Your energy becomes magnetic. Your emotions become clear and clean, no longer confused with other people's residue. But more than anything, you feel lighter. Not because you've escaped the world, but because you've stopped absorbing its shadows. And here's the deepest truth of all. The red thread is not on your wrist, it's inside you. It's the part of you that says, no more. No more living wide open without awareness. No more carrying sadness for people who never asked you to. No more blurring your own boundaries in the name of empathy. You can be loving and clear. You can be sensitive and strong. You can feel deeply without drowning. That's the gift of energetic maturity. And the red thread, tied with reverence, with fire, with breath, becomes your daily reminder. Not a charm, not superstition, but a lifeline back to your soul. A strand of red lightning wrapped around your wrist that says, this is my space, this is my breath, this is my truth, and I decide what enters my field. So if you've ever felt drained, confused, overwhelmed by energies you couldn't explain, try this. Don't scroll past it. Don't overthink it. Don't wait for the right moment. Make the moment sacred. Take a red thread. Tie it to your left wrist. Do it slowly. Do it intentionally. Do it with a clear heart and a steady breath. And as you do, speak to yourself, as your ancestors might have whispered, I remember who I am. I protect what is mine. I filter what I feel. I awaken now. Because ultimately, the red thread isn't about what's outside of you. It's about what wakes up inside you when you choose to live with energetic integrity. That's what the mystics knew. That's what the sages passed down. And now, that's what you carry forward. So let this not just be a video. Let it be a return. Let it be your moment of inner revolution. Tie the thread, anchor your energy, live with fierce awareness. And from this day forward, let the world know you are no longer a sponge. You are a lighthouse. You are no longer afraid of the storm. You are the calm eye inside it. If this message stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Subscribe to this channel. Like this video to support its reach. Comment below with the words, I honor my energy. I choose my frequency. Share this with a soul who absorbs too much and needs to remember their power. Because we don't just need more protection. We need more awakened souls. And maybe it starts with a single red thread.